my dad had this best friend, and so he decided out of the blue one day that he liked me. He's literally talking about kidnapping me. This man, if you let him get you, he gonna take you to this house, and when the police come looking for you, when it's all over the news, he gonna panic. I don't have a choice. I can take the beat down, but I don't want to be kidnapped and killed. And I had another guy to try to rape me. His favorite thing was to choke me, to slam me, and all that other stuff. I told my mother, and she said, "Do you want to call the cops?" And I said no, because I didn't trust authority. There was this one guy that came over to our house, and I'm looking at him, and immediately I'm thinking, oh, I'm finna mess with him. Every time he would come over to the house, I would make sure I'm wearing something skimpy, and I thought that was a badge of honor. One day, he grabbed my hand and he said, "Sit down. I don't know if I can handle another assault." I said, "I'll never do that again. I'm free, I'm free, I'm free." My love for God was the one that rescued me from that. I grew up in a very, very toxic family, a very toxic household. None of us were normal. And that's because, our parents, they did the best with what they knew. And that's one of the reasons why it's easy to forgive them. But they did the best with what they knew. But I grew up in a household where it wasn't uncommon, like molestation. That wasn't uncommon within our family. It wasn't uncommon, incest, all of those type of things that happened to the kids behind the scenes. That wasn't uncommon. It wasn't uncommon to have an uncle feeling on you. That kind of stuff wasn't uncommon. And
did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had a brother and a sister.
Okay, one brother and one sister.
Yes.
Did they also experience molestation as well?
Yes.
Wow, so all of y'all did.
Yes. It was just throughout my family. It was just one of those things where it actually became normalized within it. It's because like when the kids got together, the kids were touching on each other. It was just normalized within the family. Playing mama and daddy, which was one of those games, that just became normalized. And then we had a couple of uncles who struggled. We had one uncle in particular, for example, I remember that once I got older, I found out he touched pretty much every female in the family. There wasn't a young girl that he had not touched. And then for the most part, growing up, our family knew about him. And they knew the stuff that he would do, but they wouldn't do anything about it. And I always attribute that to in the South. A lot of times back in the day, if uncle touched, a niece, they couldn't call the police in the South because for the most part, they were afraid that he would get lynched. And so that's where that mindset, keep it in the family, or what happens in this house stays in this house, come from. It comes from that mentality. Okay, if we call the cops. And so what they tried to do is they tried to fix it within the family. And they still let him keep coming around. They keep on still, and they just try to be smarter, but nevertheless, he still gets to the kids. And so childhood for me looked like a bunch of molestation. It looked like, I can say, if I went through my childhood, I could say, for example, I was raped at the age of 10, like violently raped at the age of 10. This wasn't by a family member. This was by a neighborhood boy. Wow. And I was held down by a family member.
Hold on. Wait. You got to stop right there. Right there. Cause,
for clarity.
Yeah. You said it was a guy, a young boy in the neighborhood and held down. Who was the family member?
I want to say.
You don't want to say?
No.
So this is still a family secret?
No, it's not a family secret. Me and him have talked about it. I've forgiven him. And so it's something that is when we were kids or what have you. And
he was young as well?
He was young as well.
Okay, so y'all was all somewhere around the same age.
Right.
And was this like, did he think this was a game or something? Like, what made him want to go about doing something so vile?
I think for him that this guy in our neighborhood, I think he was just trying to fit in with the boy, because this boy, I was 10, this boy was 13 years old. He went to our school. He had failed out of school like 3 or 4 times. Wow. And so he was known for being a bully in the school. He was known for throwing chairs at teachers and stuff like that. So I think this family member's thing was, trying to be cool with him or stuff like that. But when we got older, we talked about that and I forgave him, what have you. So he admitted, to his wrongdoings. But I could say growing up, when that happened, it started off with it was 2 little boys that came to our house. They came to the house and they were standing out the window. So we had the rule that you couldn't let nobody in the house when your parents went at home.
Right.
And so these little boys are standing outside and they're dancing. And at first I'm thinking they're flirting with me. And how cute is that? And I'm 10 years old. I'm starting to come into my little identity, not sexual identity, but, right. I'm a little girl. And I see these 2 little boys who are kind of cute. They're standing out there dancing and I get really excited. And I keep going to the window and I'm running away from the window laughing. And then eventually they pulled out their parts, their penises. They pulled out, and I'm looking, and at that part it got real.
To all my soldiers, we are knee deep in spiritual warfare, and Hardly Initiated has created some additional armor for the fight. The Fight the Flesh bracelet is a stylish reminder to stay disciplined in the face of battle and temptation. So click the link in the description and get yours today. And don't forget, use code CLIPS for 10% off. Let's fight.
But I still laughed, and I ran away from the window a couple of times, and then they eventually went away. And I didn't think nothing else of it. A few minutes later, one of them shows back up at the house. When he showed back up at the house, he comes in, and I see him talking to this family member of mine. And he's talking to him, and next thing you know, I'm like, hey, he can't come in. We can't have company. And the guy comes up, and he walks over to me, and he touches me a couple of times, and I'm pushing him off. And I'm like, stop. And the next thing you know, he picks me up, throws me over his shoulder, and starts walking to the bedroom with me. And I'm screaming and kicking because I'm small, I'm tiny, and he throws me over his shoulder, and he get me in the room, he throws me on the bed. And I remember I had on my little favorite dress, a little flower covered dress, and some white pantyhose. I don't know why I was wearing that in the middle of the week, but I had that on, and I started fighting him. I'm trying to fight him off of me and what happened, because he was trying to take my pantyhose off. I was trying to fight him, and the next thing you know, I just remember my hands going over my head. And that's when I realized somebody was holding my hands over my head. And he proceeded to assault me. The guy, wow. He proceeded to assault me. And then after it was over with, that particular family member, it was a cousin, I will say that much. But that particular family member, he decided to tell me, oh, you're going to get in trouble. I got gaslit. He said, oh, you weren't supposed to have company when your parents get home. They're going to whoop you. And I was like, I didn't let him in. He said, yes, you did. If you tell, I'm going to say that you let him in. So I got scared. I didn't say anything. This young boy comes back to the house a few days later, and I remember specifically that every time I would see him coming, he would look mad. I would look out the window, and I see this guy walking toward our house, like marching, mad. And I get scared, and I would run. And I remember one time I hid in the hall closet, because I didn't want him to come and get me. I hid in the hall closet, and this cousin, he comes. He grabs me out of the closet. Oh, no, he tells the guy where I am. And the guy comes in the closet, and he would always be real angry. He opens up the closet, and he pulls me out of the closet, and I'm trying to fight him. He picks me up and carries me and does it again. The last time I remember, I saw him coming. I ran into my parents' bedroom because they would be at work. I ran into my parents' bedroom, and I hid under the bed. And when I hid under the bed, nobody could get under the bed because these are boys and they're kind of big. They couldn't get under the bed. So I'm under the bed, and I never forget that family member. He comes back, and he has a broom. I don't know if it's a broom or a mop. And I remember he started poking, and that's when I realized my movements were restricted because I can't thrash. I can only just move my hands up and down. So when I put my hands up to block him, when they try to poke toward my face, he would poke me in my side. It would poke me on my leg. And it was too painful, so I started scooting, trying to get out of it, and not realizing that the guy was over on this side. He was waiting. And then the next thing you know, I remember feeling my foot, and he had grabbed my foot, and he pulled me off, and I remember he raped me on my parents' bed.
Wow.
He assaulted me on my parents' bed. And so the way that my parents found out about it was, this was tormenting. I was scared. Right. I was tormented. But I was scared that I was going to get a whooping. Like, if I tell him I'm going to get a whooping. So I'm tormented. I don't know what to do. But at the same time, this is like amazingly tormenting. So I remember one particular day, my dad comes home from work, and he's like, I heard what happened. He said, are y'all going to tell me, or are you going to wait? He said, are you going to tell me or what? And I'm sitting up there, and he was like, I heard about the boys coming over. So I think he knows the entirety of the story. And so I started babbling. I said, Daddy, such and such, he did this. I'm like, he did this. And, he told me I was going to get in trouble. And then the boy, he took me in a room, and he threw me on the bed, and he did this. And I said, white stuff came out his thing. And I just remember my dad looking at me in shock. And he was like, I'm going to let your mother handle this. I'm going to go pick up your mom. I'm going to let your mother handle this. So when we left there, he left to go pick up my mom. And I remember being scared, just tormented, because I knew without a shadow of doubt I was going to be in trouble. I knew that without a shadow of doubt. And so when my mom came through the door, I don't know if the fan belt had broke on her car. True story. I remember she was carrying a fan belt, and she beat me and that family member with that fan belt. And I got in trouble.
You got beat?
I got beat.
When you told them the situation of what happened?
I don't know why I got beat, but I think it was something along the lines of I should have said something, and I must have let the boys in the house or what have you. So I took some of the blame.
Wow.
But that was the enemy. The enemy's goal in that moment was to make me feel as if I didn't have any protection from my parents. And he was successful at that. That was the enemy's goal. Because what the enemy does is he always tries to send a message to you when you're a young lady. Because whenever he's attacking, not just a young lady, but to the guys, he sends a message to you. So whenever he's attacking, you can develop a certain mindset. The objective is the mindset. And so in that, the thing that I felt, I can't tell my parents when things like this is happening to me, because I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get a whooping. So I got in trouble for that. I remember Child Protective Services had even come to our house not long after that, because one of my relatives actually had welts on him, for getting a whooping. And they saw it at school. So I remember Child Protective Services coming over there, and I remember having a skirt on and them lifting up my skirt and asking me a lot of questions. And I didn't want to tell them because I didn't want to be put in foster care. I'd always been told foster care was far worse. And so I just endured that.
So let me ask this, because, man, those stories just, it kind of piss you off when you think about those things happening to a young girl. But when your parents, I don't know how open and vulnerable you ever got with, your mom.
Real raw.
But I know we talk about generational curses and bloodline curses. Did your mom also experience molestation?
She did, but she never told me until I confronted her as an adult. Once I got saved and I was, in ministry and stuff like that, and I had a conversation. I won't even say confrontation. I had a conversation with her one time, and I was talking about all the things that I went through as a child, and for the first time in my life, she apologized, because it was just almost like in the South, there's like this secret nature, like they don't want to talk about it. They get aggravated if you talk about it. But one day we were having a conversation, and she was, just talking, and I said, well, Mom, I've been through this and I've been through that. When I told her, when I started listing things that I had gone through, I'll never forget. She was like, well, yeah, that happened to me too. When I was young, I was molested, and so it became, a lot of them are so traumatized, that they thought that, hey, that's just normal.
Right.
That's going to happen. I got over it. I'm healed. And so you will get through it as well. That was the mentality. So she actually apologized, and I was surprised, because most people don't get that. She said, I'm so sorry. And I said, no, it's fine. I've forgiven you. I've moved past that. And she said, no, that wasn't okay. That wasn't okay. And so that was the first time I was assaulted. And so my childhood after that, I never forget, I started having dreams. And this is where the spiritual part comes in.
How old are you at this point?
10. Still 10.
And you having these dreams now?
I started having these dreams. Right after the rape, I started dreaming. I had, I think, 4 dreams. I don't know if it was 4, but I always think it was 4. Of this light-skinned boy whose face was covered in freckles. And there was a fence that went all the way to the west and all the way to the east, and it went all the way to heaven, as far as to the the east as I can see, the west, and then it went all the way up to heaven. And there was this freckle-faced boy on the other side of the fence, and every time I dreamt of him, he would be gripping the fence and looking at me. So if I walked this way, he would walk in a direction. If I walked this way, he would walk in a direction. And I started experiencing feelings of lust. I started experiencing feelings of like I'm in love with him. What have you. So I literally used to go to sleep to see this boy. I didn't know it was a spirit.
Wow.
But I used to literally want to go to sleep just so I could see him. Even though he could not communicate, I felt like we were communicating. But he would, if I walked to the right, he would walk to the right. If I walked to the left, he would walk to the left. And yeah,
So he's pretty much this fence that you can see through.
No,
and
he was on the other side of the fence.
On the other side, but you can see him on the other side. I can see him. And he's just mirroring whatever your movement is.
Yes. And I, now that I'm older and in the ministry of deliverance, I know that fence represented a standard. That was God protecting me. That was God saying that what had attacked me, God had put a block there so it couldn't attack me as much as it wanted to. But because that fence, like I said, you could see it all the way here, and it went all the way up to heaven. Because in a dream, I'm looking, and I look up, and it went all the way to heaven. And every time I seen him, he was caged in that fence. He couldn't get to me.
Is that typical? Because you're 10 years old, and you pretty much having this revelation or this communication from God. What, like, is that typical for a person that young to have these kind of, spiritual experiences?
I would say yes. I think that a lot of times whenever we deal with something, especially something like a sexual assault or what have you, we start having dreams, but most kids don't recognize it because we're used to having dreams, but they don't recognize the nature of the dream because the dream may switch to something having sex with them. The dream may switch to something romantic in nature. When you're used to dreaming, you don't think too much about it. So I think it's really common. Looking back, like a lot of people, they reach out to me and they'll tell me about their kid or what their kid is going through. Like I've taken kids through deliverance who've been sexually assaulted. All right. And so the kid will start having dreams. They'll start having nightmares and stuff like that. And the dreams will indicate that the kid has a spirit spouse. It will indicate that there's something that's attacking the kid. But most of the time, we're just used to having dreams. And then a lot of parents are not aware of spiritual things, so they don't know what the dream means. Like they don't know that if a little girl comes to you and says, I dreamt somebody was marrying me. Like there was a grown man, he didn't have a face and he was marrying me. They don't know that that's a spirit spouse.
Wow.
All they know is that my daughter had a dream that she got married, and they may go so far as to say, oh, I guess you dreamt of your future husband. Wasn't a future husband. That was a spirit spouse that was attached to her. It was a spirit spouse.
It's really fascinating to hear you saying that because I'm even thinking about when I was a kid, like thinking about the dreams. And, I grew up in an abusive household. My stepfather, unfortunately, used to, pretty much beat my mom up. And I remember, when it got really bad, I used to have this dream where it used to be like this guy dressed in all black. He used to sneak in my room and like come in my bed, like take off my covers. And when I used to wake up, all my covers would be off and like on the floor. And I just remember being scared as I'm talking about terrified to go to sleep because I'm like, no, I'm telling my mom like, no, somebody is coming here. There's no way I'm explaining this. Somebody's coming here. My covers on the floor like that. She's like, no, you kicking off your covers. But I remember the dreams during that time was during a very traumatic part of my life. So it's just kind of funny, these things that happen to kids, the parents are hearing it, but they might not even connect the two. Like what's happening in your household is the cause of these occurrences.
And that kid with that dream, that monster taking off your covers, that likely was whatever was in your stepfather. They just represent you not having a covering. I mean, you not being protected. You not having a covering. And a lot of times, parents in their 20s and 30s, in many cases, are so desperate to be in a relationship that they become so focused on the person that they're with that they just kind of feel that the kids are just there. They'll be all right. I always say some people raise their kids instinctively. Let me give you food. Let me give you water. Make sure you do your homework. Make sure you bathe. Make sure you brush your teeth. And that's it. That's all. But anything that's going on with the kid emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, they're totally ignorant of it.
Man. So now you're 10 years old. You're having these dreams, but you're starting to experience lust. Okay, lust is coming in heavily. What happens next now in this next, season of your life?
When I go and I become 12. When I turn 12 years old, we move. And my dad had this best friend. And I remember this man had been around since before I was born. And so he decided out of the blue one day that he liked me. He decided, he's 40-something years old. I'm 12 years old. And so I would see him around the house, and we had one of those relationships where he's like an uncle. Like I may hit him or, or something like that. But one day we were sitting up, and my dad had left. My mom was at work. My dad had left and went next door, I think, and he was at the neighbor's house. And I'm at home with this guy alone, and we're watching Cinemax. And I remember there was a sex scene on a show. We weren't allowed as kids to watch sex scenes. We could watch the movies, but we weren't allowed to watch sex scenes. So we were supposed to turn our head. But I'm like, parents not here. I'm not turning my head.
Right.
So I just kind of watched on through the sex scene. But then I stood up after it was over with, and I was walking by him, and he started acting like he was playing with me. And so I had a wrapped up newspaper in my hand. So I started, hitting him with the newspaper. And I remember he grabbed me and pulled me into his lap. And then he just starts grinding. And I'm frozen. I just sat there frozen. I didn't know what to do because I'm just like, okay. And then not long after that, he didn't get a chance to get to me, praise God. But not long after my dad, I could hear the front door unlocking. And it's like I already knew. I jumped up and I got the newspaper and started acting like I'm playing with him again. And so
it felt wrong to you as a kid.
It felt wrong to me. I knew that I would get in trouble. That was the way my brain was thinking. I'm going to get in trouble for sitting on this man's lap. And I didn't get sitting on his lap, but I'm thinking I'm going to get in trouble. So I jump up and I play it off and I start hitting him with the paper again. Well, this man then decides that every time he sees me, he needs to touch me. Every time he sees me, because he would pretty much be at our house 24/7. But anytime he sees me, he needs to put his hands on me. So he would touch me, and I was too afraid to tell my parents. So I'm just like, okay, let me learn how to navigate, him being in the house, to get away from him, because I had already learned that with one of my uncles, a couple of them, but really one of them that was the main one. I already learned how to navigate around him. So now I'm developing a mentality of how to get around a man. And one of the things I never forget was I knew when a man would get aroused. Like I used to call it the sleepy look. Like if a man started looking sleepy to me, if he still started gazing at me, I was like, uh-oh. So I learned to kind of get around him. So I remember he caught me one day in the kitchen, and I every time that man would catch me, I would say, dang it, he got me this time, in my head, because I'm learning to get away from him. So to keep my mouth shut, he says to me one day, he said, I want to give you money. He said, but I don't want your parents to become suspicious. He said, so I want you to iron my uniforms for me, and I'll give you $15 a week. $15 a week was like the equivalent of $100 today. And I was like, really? Because what the enemy was trying to do, he wanted me to pick up that mentality of using men. Like they are good for something. And, you give them something, you'll get something. I call it a prostitute mentality. And I started thinking, okay, there's a benefit, but I need to just avoid him so he can't get me. So if I could avoid him where he can't get me, but I can still get the money, that's going to work out. So he hired me to iron his clothes. So, he tell my parent, he's like, yeah, I'm hiring Tiffany to iron my clothes. I'm going to give her $15 a week. I couldn't iron. I was messing that man's clothes up. I'm talking about burning holes in it and everything. And he fussed, but I still get my $15 a week. And every time he come around, I managed to avoid him. Like I said, every once in a while he would catch me alone somewhere in the house. Like my parents would be in another room. He'll catch me and he'll touch on me. And I'd be like, he got me. Well, this continued. He never got a chance to have sex with me. This continued until I was 14 years old. When I was 14, he called the house one day. By this time, we moved to a different apartment. He called the house one day, and we didn't have caller ID at the time. He called, and he said, hey. He says, Tiffany. I said, yeah. He said, let me talk to your mom. No, he said, let me talk to your dad. I said, he's not here. And I remember the awkward silence. Then he said, let me talk to your mom. And I'm scared because I'm just like, dang, he got me again. He got me on the phone this time. And I was like, she's not here. And he got quiet, and he said, Tiffany, and I don't remember exactly the way he said it, but I remember him telling me that I was mature for my age. I was already a woman. My parents were treating me like a kid, and he's always fussing at them because they treat me like a kid, and that he had a house that they didn't know anything about in the country.
Wow.
And he told me to meet him at the corner store because we lived outside of city limits. He said, meet me at the corner store. Don't bring any clothes with you. Don't bring anything with you. Just meet me up there. He said, I'm going to take you to my house. And he said, you're going to live with me. He said, I'm going to teach you to drive. I'm going to buy you a whole new wardrobe. He said, you're going to be my woman. He said, you're mature for your age. I'm scared because we were taught respect to the point of toxic loyalty. Like if you're an adult, you just say, yes, sir. Even though you don't plan on complying. Yes, sir. Okay. So I'm like, okay. Yes, sir. And so I know I'm not going to that store. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, I done got away all these years. How I done got away, and now it's upgraded to the point where he's literally talking about kidnapping me. And I never forget the thought that was a saving thought to me was I literally saw, and I won't say it was a prophetic vision, but it was like a thought of a backyard and me being buried in that backyard. And I kept thinking to myself, this man, if you let him get you, he gonna take you to this house. And when the police come looking for you, when it's all over the news, he gonna panic. And he gonna kill you. He gonna bury you in his backyard.
You thought that at 14 years old?
I thought that at 14 years old. And I got scared. And so I had already told him I was gonna meet him at the store in an hour. I had just said, okay. So I'm pacing back and forward. 5 minutes later, I see both my parents coming, which was odd. I see them both coming up to the house, and I look at them. And when they came through the door, I'm like, okay, it's time. I don't have a choice. I can take the beat down, but I don't want to be kidnapped and killed. Right. So I was like, I told him, I said, and I called this man Roger. I said, Roger keeps calling, and Roger told me to meet him at the store, and I told him everything he said to me. And I never forget, my dad looked shocked. My mom looked shocked. My dad, he went, picked up the phone and called him. And my dad, I remember hearing my dad crying and saying, how could you do this to me, man? How could you do this to me? My mom, on the other hand, she starts asking me a ton of questions, about it, what have you. Afterwards, she was like, okay, your dad's talking to him. So I go into my bedroom because I'm scared. I'm in my bedroom, walking back and forth, scared, terrified. And I remember a few minutes later, my mom stuck her head in the door. He said he was just playing with you. And I said, he wasn't playing with me. And I said, he's been touching me for the last 2 years. You know, and what have you. My mom said, okay, your dad's still on the phone with him. I said, okay. I don't remember how that went that night. I just remember being terrified. But I do remember when I came home from school the next day, the man was sitting in our living room.
Wow.
I remember seeing his truck. I saw his truck when I was pulling up, and I was thinking, that can't be his truck. That cannot be his truck. And he had an odd truck. If I'm thinking right, he had a red colored truck. And I'm like, there's got to be somebody. So when I come into the living room, he's sitting there. And he speaks to my brother. He speaks to my sister. And I'm shocked. And I just take off running to my room. And I close the door. And I'm talking about terrified. Confirmation. You cannot protect you. Your parents are not going to protect you. So then my dad comes in the room. He said, I'm just talking to him. He was threatening to kill himself.
Your dad did see you run away. So he saw
me run.
You.
Yeah,
okay.
So he followed me to the room. And he was like, he said, I'm just talking to him. He said he was going to kill himself. I'm trying to stop him from killing himself.
Predator move.
Right. And I said to him, I said, most fathers would have offered to do it for him. I said he wouldn't have to threaten to kill himself.
That's what you said.
Yes. I said most fathers
You was
right.
And this is 14 you.
At 14
wow.
me.
And how did your pop respond to that?
I don't remember.
It ain't nothing to say.
Nah, there's nothing to say. But what I do remember was that from that point on, consistently, that man would keep coming to our house. And then he started picking with me now. So now when he come to our house, he would say to my sister, or say to my brother, he said, hey, here goes some money. Here goes some money. How y'all doing? And I remember running to my mom's room one day, and I was crying, and I was like, he's picking. And he gave my brother money, gave my sister money. And my mom was like, well, I'm going to give you some money. And then she gave me some money. And she was like, I don't know what you're crying about. And that's that. But what the enemy was doing in that moment was sending a message to me that you don't have protection. You're going to have to learn how to fight by yourself. You don't have somebody that's going to shield you from that. So my childhood was filled with sexual predators. My childhood was the enemy sending a message to me because the enemy had a goal in mind, because the enemy will train you to become what he wants you to become. He was training me to become a man eater. He wanted me to become a narcissist, a Jezebel. That was the goal. He wanted me to become a broken person that saw men as nothing but good for money. You know, what you can get out of them or what have you. And if you got to do what you got to do it. And if you ain't got to do it, just still get the money. A lot of times when people see women like that, they think, oh, she's just a woman that likes that. No, that's what she was trained to become. That's what trauma taught her as a child, is nobody's going to protect you. Because that's the word I kept hearing. When I was a child, the thing I heard repeatedly was nobody cares. That was the two words I heard all the time. And I would often hear nobody's going to protect you. So I became really self-sufficient as a child.
What I'm just blown away by this. The mentality of your parents. Like what kind of, mental or spiritual state were they in to be being taken advantage of by this man as well?
They were the biggest people pleasers I ever knew. Okay. They were the biggest people pleasers I ever knew. So my dad was trying to please my mom. My mom was trying to please people. So my mom was always obsessed with making sure the people in the family were okay, the people in the neighborhood were okay. Like one of my worst whoopings I got was from a lady in our neighborhood lying and saying I let my window up for some boys to come in, which was a lie. That my bedroom window was torn down. But my mom, because she was trying to impress this woman, beat the brakes off of me just to prove that, hey, I hear you or what have you. So that was her thing, was that even though I can give her credit for being a great mother in so many retrospects, right? Mm-hmm. I can give her honor. But in that, her biggest issue was people pleasing. Because matter of fact, when I was a kid, we actually started messing with that issue of hers. Me and my brother, my sister too, we would oftentimes mess with that issue of hers. Like when we got in public or what have you, we would do something, we'll say something loud that we knew was embarrassing. And she just like, I'm going to get y'all when we get home. And we just laugh about it.
Wow. So y'all start being manipulative as well.
Issue. Yes.
Wow.
We started messing with that issue.
So that makes a lot of sense, man. And this is a real strong lesson for the parents that's watching, really making sure that your children feel protected. And, there is this space where it's an openness where they can come talk to you, about these different things that they're experiencing. Because I know a lot of children, even me at some points, have felt like I can't talk to my mom about these really hard things, my mom or dad, because I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
If I tell them some things that I probably should have been able to tell them.
Right.
So, that's some hard lessons to happen. And it's interesting. We had Minister Danny come on here just for Monday's testimony, and she went full blown into being a porn star at like the highest levels. And, from prostitution, drugs, porn, and it's shockingly similar. The beginning of the story, a lot of it started with molestation, with not being protected within the family, with being abused by people very close to them that they should have trusted. That trust was broken, and they were abused by the people that they should have been protected by.
Right.
And now you starting to move into this now lustful Jezebel-like era of your life, all because of the result of that. So now tell me what happens next. Now you're 14. This has now went down with your dad's best friend. What happens next? We've experienced some real traumatic experiences in our life, especially related to sexual molestation at this point. And what happens here next?
At the age of 14, I developed a disdain for my household. So I started staying in my room. I lived in my room. That's when I became like highly introverted. I lived in my bedroom. I made sure I had respect for my parents, but I lived in my bedroom. And so at the age of 14, I just remember just kind of staying away from everybody. And then I had some best friends whose houses they became a safe haven. So God always provided a safe haven for me, so I always had best friends who their parents didn't know what I was going through, but they would take me into their house. So I'm always at their house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When I turned 15, my parents, they go through their breakup and they're going through their divorce. When they started going through their divorce, at that time I cut off most of my family. Like I really went through a brain shift of I didn't want to have anything to do with the majority of them, because I was like, and even though I was in my mom's house and my mom was super family oriented and she would be like, the family's family, I was like, family's family to who? And so I started basically retrieving to my best friend's house. And there's this one story that I know that was horrific. And then my parents started going through a divorce, and I was going over to my best friend's house a lot. She lived in the city. I lived in city limits. So I'm going over to her house all the time. And she lived in the hood. When you broke and young, you love the hood because you got all the hood guys or what have you. So I remember going over to her house, and my parents are separated and they're going through their divorce at this point. And one day we're over there, and she said, they say your daddy outside. I said, dad outside? Because my dad don't ever come over there. And I'm thinking, why would he come over here? So I went outside to see him, and he was like, hey, babe, I just wanted to come by and see you. I found out you were over here. And I was like, hey. So I'm talking to him, and I remember he ends up telling me, he starts talking about my mom first. He starts talking about, oh, your mom not going to let me see. And I was like, no, she's literally telling us to call you. Like, she's not stopping you from seeing us or what have you. So I'm like, that's not the case. And then he tells me he wants me. He said, your mama done moved on already. She got a boyfriend. And I said, yeah, no, we don't like him. But then he tells me, I want y'all to come live with me, meaning me and my sister, because my brother had went to live with him. So he was like, I want y'all to come live with me. And I'm thinking, mama's stable. One thing I respect and I love about my mom is that my mom gonna work 2 jobs. She gonna make sure she has, a house and all that. Daddy, on the other hand, wasn't all that stable.
Wow.
He was always moving around. So I'm just like, I'm not going to live with him. But he's saying, hey, I want you and your sister to come live with me. And he realized that I'm not giving in to that. So he said, if you come live with me, you can go spend a night with your boyfriend. Now, this is a man.
No way.
I kid you not. This is the man that fought hard for me not to have a boyfriend the whole time him and my mom was married. To the point where I would go to my mom in tears, like, why can't I date? My friends are dating, all that. So he said, you can stay the night with a boy. And I was like, really? I can stay? He's like, yeah. He said, because I know you're a young lady, all of that. Just, be careful so you don't have a kid. You don't get pregnant. And I'm just sitting there looking like, wow. I'm going to test that out. So it was going to be his weekend with us that weekend. I said, so can I stay the night with a boy this weekend? He said, yes. At this time, I'm in between boyfriends.
How old are you, by the way?
At this time, I'm 15 or 16. I think I was 16.
Okay.
But I'm in between boyfriends. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't believe he's going to let me go through with it, but I'm going to go over there and see. So I go over to his house, and I called my first ex-boyfriend, who was a Jehovah's Witness. And, he was a virgin and all that. But I don't care at this point because I was sexually active. So at this point, I don't care. I get a chance to go be grown, stay the night with a guy all night long. So I call him up and I tell him, because he was right around the corner from my dad. So he come over to the house and we're sitting out in the car, and I traumatized him because I looked at him and I said, my daddy said I could stay the night with a boy. And I remember he got nervous and he was like, I'm in my brother's car. I got to take my brother's car back. I was like, you can't find it. And he was like, no. So then after that, after he left, I called the other ex because I was between boyfriends. And the one I had recently broke up with for cheating, I knew he would, because we had been sexually active. I knew he wasn't going to say no. So I called him up. And he called the house, and he said, hey, because he was close with my dad and them. That's how I met him, was through them. So I was like, yeah, my dad said I could stay the night with a guy. No, he said, I'm going to swing by there to see you today. You know, I said, okay. I said, yeah, dad said I could stay the night. He said, I'm on my way. I never forget that. He said, I'm on my way. So he lived not too far from the place, too. So he pulls up, and I go sit in the car with him. He was like, and I remember every time he would talk, he coughed. So your dad said you come stay the night? I was like, yeah, my dad said I can come stay the night with a guy. And he was like, all right, you want to come stay the night with me? I said, obviously. And he was like, all right, go let your dad know. So I went in the house. I was like, hey, I got him outside. I'm going to go stay the night with him. And I said, okay, just remember what I told you. No kids, all that. I said, okay. So I get in the car with the guy. Now, my brother's standing there. And my brother's watching this. And my brother went into cock block mode. But he didn't get a chance to really block because we in the car. So we in the car and we drive to the guy's house. We get there. As soon as we get up in there, the guy's mom's not home. Nobody's there. So as soon as we get up in there, I already know the way to the bedroom. I run straight to the bedroom and strip down. You know, I don't know if he cut the music on, I cut it on, I just strip down. I'm excited because I get to stay all night long and do what I want to do. And I remember he wanted to, and I'm trying not to be graphic, but he was trying to take his time. And I'm just sitting up there like, I don't know why I had a rush mentality, like, let's get it done. But he wanted to kiss, and I'm like, why are we kissing? But
this was fast, Tiffany.
I was fast.
Different life.
Hold on.
A broken Tiffany, right? I'm up in there like, why are we kissing? And so a few minutes later, I hear beating on the window. Boom, boom, boom. And I hear my brother's voice. I'm going to tell mama. I'm going to tell mama. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, and the guy stopped. I said, keep going, just ignore him. Keep going, just ignore him. He was like, I'm going to tell mother. So he go from the front door, he go from the window to the front door. Boom, 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 boom. I'm telling mama. Boom, 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 boom. And I keep pulling the boy back. I'm just like, just ignore him. Just ignore him. He'll go away. And he kept saying, nah, I can't. And I kept saying, just ignore him. He said, nah, I got to go let him in. So then I get up. I put my clothes on. I'm mad. And I remember my brother came, sat in there. He's like, what y'all doing? And I'm just sitting there.
This little brother?
He's older.
Oh,
my
wow.
older brother.
Okay.
He's like, what y'all doing? And so he had literally ran on foot to the house.
Wow.
He had literally ran on foot. And I was so mad at him. But we ended up, the guy had to take me back to my dad's house. And because my brother was threatening to tell my mom. So I ended up going home the next day. My mom found out about it anyhow. And she went off on my dad.
Right.
And I never forget, this was when my relationship with my father shifted. Because from that all the way up until then, I had been a daddy's girl. All the way up until the end. But my relationship with him shifted that day because I overheard her. Because she was very careful not to say stuff around us. But I overheard her on the phone saying he went through all that just because he don't want to pay child support. And I thought to myself, like, dang it. Wow. I felt like daddy was prostituting me.
Wow.
Instead of protecting me, he was putting me out there. Because I didn't understand why you want me to come live with you.
Right.
And so I'm like, and this is out of his character. And my mom, I remember hearing her say he wouldn't be paying but like $20 or $30 a month. And he's doing all that so he don't have to pay child support. And from that point on, I remember my mind shifted toward him.
Just lost the respect.
I lost all respect. Because I'm thinking, dang, you would do all that, to put me out there. Because I learned in that moment that as a kid, no matter how much we cry and complain about having those restrictions, we actually do want that protection.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
we actually do want that protection.
We do.
Yeah,
we do. When you find out something like that at such a young age, when your respect for the most important man in your life at that point is lost, I can imagine it's like a switch that goes off in your mind as a young woman when you lose respect for the man whose duty is to protect you.
Right.
At that point, what happened to you mentally at that point?
I kept shifting because I was cutting off family members. I was cutting people off. I just kept shifting. And I thought I was growing up. I kept shifting to the point where I just don't want to be around my family. I want to stay in my bedroom, or I'm going to be at one of my friends' house. I didn't talk to him as much after that. I just kind of I stepped back away from him, and my life became that of an adult living with her mother. So it's just like I got my own room. It was almost like my own apartment to me. So I'm in my room. I come out and eat. I go back to my room. I just start I started isolating myself. And then my best friend at the time, I would just be at her house all the time. So sometimes my mom would let me go over there and stay like a week, what have you. So I'd be like, hey, can I go stay over her house? Can I go stay? And my mom would be like, yeah. So I go stay over with my friend's house for a week. And that became the rest of my childhood, was just me either isolating myself or going to the places that I felt safe at. So that was that. And then I got older. And at the age of 18, I learned my feminine wiles, which is what happens. I learned as a young lady, these guys that have these issues and not being able to control themselves, if they got the issue, take advantage of it. So I always tell people at the age of 18, I was my rawest. At the age of 18, I went and got the word scandalous tattooed on my arm.
No, you didn't.
It's still on you right now?
Still there, and it won't go away. Everybody else.
It say scandalous?
It say scandalous.
Tiffany, you was gone.
I was gone.
You was
Everybody
gone.
else's tattoos fade. Mine didn't. Mine is just as dark as the day is got. That I got it is right here on my arm.
You really embraced that
life.
lifestyle.
I've embraced that demon.
Wow.
I embraced that demon. I went in because at this point, the thing that I took pride in was that I couldn't feel anything emotionally toward a man. I mean, I could, but for the most part, you couldn't get to my emotions. Like for me, I could discard you. Remember I said the devil was trying to turn me into a narcissist. So for me, I could discard a man. I could date you. I could be with you. I could do whatever I wanted. But now I feel like I'm in control. I'm in power because nobody can rape me now. At least I thought. Nobody can do anything to me now. I'm in control. So if a guy touched me, I never forget something an ex told me. He said, and this is when I was still with him. He said, if I touch you, you flip out. But if we do anything, it's always you initiating. And I didn't realize it. Like if he touched me, I would flip. I would just go off. I would start cursing or what have you. I started like, get out of my house, get out. But I had to be the one initiating. And so I walked around in life. At that age, I started exploring my sexual identity, if you may. I started exploring what it was like. And so I felt like if a man can be cold, I can be cold too. If a man could be, if he can use you, you can use him too. That was my mentality. Get what you can get or what have you. Now, I wanted to be in a relationship and I would be trying to be serious in a relationship. I would have little serious relationships, but they wouldn't work because as soon as that guy did anything that made me feel unsafe, I got rid of him. Anything that made me feel unsafe, if he was talking to an ex of his, if he said anything that I felt disrespectful, I got rid of him.
Wow. And
that continued on, and I had a special way of choosing men. That's why I say I've been proposed to, I would say no less than 10 times.
Break down a special way of choosing men. Okay, give us the sauce. What was the situation?
What the world called F-boys, I wouldn't mess with. So for me, I always went after men who seemed to be emotionally intelligent, men who seemed to know what they wanted, men who seemed to, you could tell that they were, I want a serious relationship. I want marriage. Those are the only type of guys I would mess with. If you were a promiscuous guy and you were known for going around the block, I wouldn't date you. If I dated you, it was to humble you. That was my mentality. My friends would even say things to me like sick 'em when it came down to a guy. Like if he was broken and he had tried to break one of them, my only reason for dating that guy at that moment was to humble him, was to break him. And that's because my friends, they all were emotional. They cry over guys. I could not cry over a guy. I didn't have any feelings when it came to a guy because I had no expectations. And that's what the devil does, is he teaches you when you're being attacked, he's teaching you not to have an expectation. And so I didn't have any expectation for the man to be good or to marry me or to do it, all that. I didn't have any expectation. I didn't have any expectation for him to do wrong either. I just went in with, okay, let's see. And as soon as he did something crazy, I was gone.
I hear a lot of women that take pride in that though. Tiff, like a lot of women who take pride in not having no emotions, a lot of women who take pride in being able to leave a man with no wounds, no nothing. I'll leave him. I'll do this. I'll do that. and they kind of wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
That they can kind of move around like that. And every time I hear it, I know personally that it's something wrong as hell with you.
Some damage.
And I definitely don't want to deal with you. And I usually attribute that to daddy issues.
Yeah.
But it could be just whatever. Some relationship you have with men obviously is terribly wounded. But what do you say to women who hold that as a badge of honor?
It's not a badge. It's like a demonic tattoo where you're branded like by the devil. It's like, the devil, how people brand their cows. That's a brand from the devil. Because in that's why a lot of women will sit back and they'll be like, unbothered. And that's what they're literally saying is, I don't want to elevate. I don't want to grow. I don't want to heal. I want to keep dating men in this dimension, but I keep getting discarded. I keep getting hurt. So I want to get to the space where I can do to them what they're doing to me. Rather than me saying, I don't want to date these type of guys. Let me go heal. Let me go grow. But the void makes them want the man. But the pain makes them say, okay, I don't know if I can handle another assault. I don't know if I can handle another breakup. I don't know if I can handle being cheated on again. Because in certain dimensions, the commonality is that all the men in that dimension are going to cheat. Or most of them. This is why you have so many women that say, oh, men cheat. They don't.
Right.
They don't understand that we date dimensionally. And dimensionally means wherever our mind is. And so the lower you go, the more you're going to see a lack of self-control. The lower you go, the more you're going to see a lot of promiscuity, witchcraft, and stuff like that. They don't understand that. And because they don't plan to elevate, they say, okay, how can I adapt? Instead of growing. And so it becomes, I want to get to that space where I'm unbothered. And this is why they'll find podcasters who seem to be cold toward me, and they love that. Seem to be cold. Let me tell you how to get his money. Let me tell you how to get this. Let me tell you how to get that. That seems to be a badge where a woman says, okay, if I can get to that space where I don't care just like he don't care, that puts me at the top. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And so I remember having that mentality. As long as I don't feel anything, I'm good. Because I held my friends when they cried. I was the one that comforted them when they cried. And at the same time, I'm wondering, what are they feeling and why are they letting themselves feel like that? And the advice I would tell them was, there's so many more men in the sea. There's so many fish in the sea. Why are you crying over him? It's not that serious. It's not that deep. But I didn't realize that they were they were a lot healthier than I was. I wasn't healthy mentally. I wasn't healthy emotionally. I thought that I can get them to get like me. That should be okay. If I can get them to be cold like me, because I learned a lesson. The colder you are with a man, the more he wants you. Because when I would push them off, they came for me like crazy. When I push them off and I say, I don't want you, get away from me, I was getting proposed to.
So see, now you're giving them that seductress game right now. See, this how I knew Tiff is an OG.
She was in it.
Seductress, because right now she giving y'all some seductress 101.
Right.
Please don't take that advice, y'all.
On how to go about keeping control and maintaining. And you literally have women who have podcasts like this.
Yes.
Oh, and women eat that up.
They eat it up.
Women who, like you said, they give you the excellent men too. They're called pickup artists.
Yeah.
They teach you how to maintain power.
Be void of emotion.
So you can be able to pretty much control and manipulate the other person.
The Jezebel podcast.
And there's podcasts where men have it and women have the same. I ain't gonna lie, I'm scared of hell in the podcast with women. I ducked in one time and listened.
It's crazy.
And if you just sit in there and hear the X's and O's and how technical it can get to how to control a man, take command over his resources, over his emotions, over his actions, and create these outcomes on a regular basis, it blows me away when I see how it's being taught.
Works. Wow. And it works. A lot of that stuff, it works. And that's why you have so many women eating it up, because you have so many women who have no emotional control. And so they go and they're just constantly, they tell the man everything. They do everything that's wrong, and then they constantly find themselves in the wrong position. When they would come in contact with somebody like I was, and they see that I had emotional control and I'm in control of the situation, they say, oh, you like sensei. How do I learn from you? Not realizing that mentality can get you killed.
Right.
That mentality can get you killed. I ended up getting kidnapped or partially kidnapped by an ex, right? Trying to be a G. I told people, I said, I learned to play in a man's head until I came in contact with crazy for real. Because see, some people you can play in their head and you probably they probably come up on your job crying. they probably gonna do this or they're gonna but no, at some point.
Wait, hold, you said the men would come to your job crying.
Right, they're gonna probably come to your job crying, or they
show
gonna
up at your house or something.
Right,
like that.
send flowers and stuff like that. But at some point, you gonna come in contact with somebody who that ain't healthy. At some point, this is why those podcasts are literally designed to turn those women into Jezebel and turn those men into Jezebels. It's literally, I call it demonic real estate. Demons are always like a demonic real estate agent that helping other demons to get in people. And these women are eating it up rather than seeking first the kingdom of God. They're eating it up. And what they don't realize that the enemy is setting them up to either become a Jezebel or to die in the game. Because at some point, you'll come in contact with that one that is unhinged. You'll come in contact with that one that he don't look like he unhinged because he's handsome. So he can go get whatever he wants. So he look like he's well put together at some point. And you just think it's another dude. You just think it's another, somebody I'm dating, and we're going to see where this goes or what have you. And then turns out when you try to break up with him, it don't end the way you thought it was.
Crazy killer.
Oh, no. You end up kidnapped.
So at 18 years old, you at the height of being a seductress at this point at 18 years old. So when you say you're a seductress, just to be clear, what does that look like, being a seductress? Because I think there are women who are seductress who literally don't even know that they're seductress. So what does that look like, being a seductress?
So first and foremost, there are different types of seductresses.
Okay.
So there are different types. You have some who are straight up after your money. That's it. That's all. You have some who just want your attention. They really don't want you. They want your attention because you're fueling their self-esteem. That's it. It's hey, can I pull you? And then you have some that do things different ways. And so you got a seductress, for example, if you're married, she will steal you from your wife and then discard you. She don't want you. She just wanted to know that she could take you. She wanted to know that you would want her on that level. And so for me, being a seductress, it would depend on the man. So it's almost like the devil gives you the game depending on the man. So, for example, there was this one guy that came over to our house that he was coming over to mentor my brother because my brother at this time was having behavioral issues or something like that. So this guy was coming over to the house and I was 18 years old. And I remember I had on this little black spandex thing, right? I'm just 18. I'm just like a size 1. And I come out of the room and this guy's 27. I'm 18. I come out of the room and I'm taking my plate to the kitchen and he starts staring and he goes into a trance. And I'm looking at him and immediately I'm thinking, oh, I'm finna mess with him. Because right then and there, it showed me the language I can get for it now. He don't have a guard up. I can get what I want from him because I see him looking. So I go and my brother introduced me to him and I said, hey, and I go on to the kitchen. When I come out the kitchen, he's still looking. And from that point on, every time he would come over to the house, I would make sure I'm wearing something skimpy. And I just walk through there or what have you.
So y'all thirsty, brothers. Y'all targets.
Yeah.
That thirsty, bro. Y'all, it's all on you.
What do you think a stripper does at a strip club?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Right. She's not going to come after you if you just sitting up over there with your sunglasses. No, she's going to come after Pee-wee with the cut on the side of his face. The one that's sitting up there that's in a trance because he's going to give her his lunch money and his rent money. That's what she's going for.
Easy kill.
He's easy kill. She's going to go after the one that goes into a trance. Wow. That's what she's not interested in a guy that's sitting up there that seems to have some self-control and he's used to that. He just throwing money.
Right.
Because he's going to try to save his money.
The one with his mouth open.
She's going to go after the one with his mouth open. And the one that's just standing there looking, she's going to go and he most of the time not healthy enough to understand that she don't want him. And that he think they're having a special moment. And so that mentality is just basically all about getting what you want. It's all about, okay, well, this is, he's not going to do you right anyhow. He's going to cheat on you anyhow. He's going to break you anyhow. Then make sure you get something from it. So that's the mentality that I went into at the age of 18. I'm just constantly, at this time, I can actually say I was playing with my femininity. So this guy, when he comes to our house, I'm looking, and I started telling my friends about it. And I was like, yeah, this man keep coming over here looking. I said, I'm going to mess with him. And I don't remember, we had a code. But it was a sign that I'm gonna mess with his mind. Yeah. And so anytime he would come over for my brother, I would just do that. So he came over one day and he was like asking for my brother. I said, he's not here. He said, oops, I thought he was gonna be here. I knew that was a lie. I knew he was I was like, okay, cool, you can come in, you can come wait for him. And I was already in the living room. I don't know why, I was already scantily clad. I'm in the living room. I used to love to watch exercise videos and just be exercising and what have you. So he sits in the living room, and I'm just like, I'm finna mess with him. And I just started dancing. And what have you. And
I've had little girls do that. You know, they just start randomly dancing in front of you as a kid. We probably experienced that as kids.
Right.
Being real extra.
So I started doing that, and I'm taking him into this space. And I did that a couple of times when I would see him. I would play games with him, and then one day he grabbed my hand and he said, sit down. And he starts telling me his testimony, his story about how he used to be on drugs and all this other stuff. And that's how he got me. You're right, because he, you know, at this time, I'm just playing with guys. I got seductress friends. Like, we're different types of seductresses. I got seductress friends, and I wasn't messing with nobody's man. I wasn't interested in it. But I'm thinking, all my friends have done it, so why not? Because he had a live-in girlfriend.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, okay, they don't get serious. It's going to be fun. That's it. And so I ended up getting into a sexual relationship with him. And I got mad and ended that sexual relationship because he got serious. That's how broken I was. I got mad at him for getting serious because I was like, why is it that my friends, they're dating and the dudes are not getting serious, and now this guy over here, you know,
doing too much.
He's doing too much. But I was just that broken, and I thought that was a badge of honor. For real. I genuinely didn't realize I was too wounded to feel. But I thought that was a badge of honor, was that the fact. So I ended up discarding him, which is what I used to do as a young lady. I would discard. And so 18 was the worst year. 19, I did a little dirt, but I ended up meeting a guy, getting engaged. Then he cheated. And when I found out he cheated, I got rid of him. I had to go through his stalking. Then we moved from out there. And then
you got engaged to the guy. Then the guy cheated during the engagement.
Right.
Okay.
I got engaged to this guy. He cheated on me during the engagement. Now, around that time, I ended up being, I had another guy that tried to rape me. He assaulted me, was choking me the whole nine. And this was somebody that I used to work with, that I used to be cool with. I had been along with him a couple of times. And he always tried me, but I always fought him off. And I'd be like, stop, don't touch me. And that's why I felt safe going around. He was military. So he had been either in Afghanistan or Iraq. I don't remember. He was a sergeant in the military. And I remember he reached out to me one day, and he called my job, and he was like, hey, I'm in town. And I said, okay. And he said, I want to see you. And I said, I got a man. Because, you know, I'm like, I already know he's going to try me. He said, Tiffany, me and you always been cool. It's not like that. I just want to see you. He said, plus I bought you some jewelry back. And me being materialistic, I'm thinking, jewelry from overseas? So I go over to his house, and I remember there were two young girls sitting up smoking marijuana. I've never been into drugs. I was always afraid of becoming a crackhead. That was the thing that kept me away from drugs, was I don't want to be a crackhead. They always told us that it was a stepping stone. Right. And all I thought of as crackhead was a crackhead had no teeth. That's how I thought of it. They're going to be super skinny, a big head, no teeth. And I was scared I would become like that. And so I remember I saw the young ladies sitting on the floor smoking marijuana. And he was like, man, it's my niece. And he was like, you want to go in my room? I said, yeah, okay. Because it was just me trying to get away from them. But I remember on the way to his room, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to make it clear, and I'm just going to get what I'm going to get the jewelry, and I'm going to talk to him for about 30 minutes, and I'm going to leave. Prostitute mentality. I'm going to get what I want to get, and I'm going to leave. We go into his room, and I remember we get into the room. The bed was a big old bed. I remember I sat on the bed, and he tried to close the door, and I threw my leg in the way. And I was like, don't close this door. And he was like, oh, man. So he sat on the bed next to me, and then he talked for a little bit. He got up, and he tried to close the door again. And I put my leg in the way. I'm still thinking I'm in control. You know, and I'm just like, and I'm a bucko, too. I was like, don't do that. And so I remember the third time he stood up, he got in front of me. And he was like 6'2", 6'3". He stood in front of me, and he's solid muscle. He picks me up. And I start screaming, like, why are you picking me up? I'm going off or what have you. And he closed the door, you know, while holding me. And then he falls on top of me on the bed. And I'm on the bed screaming and cussing him out. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm just going off. And I'm thinking it's just a man being mannish. All I got to do is yell and he going to get it. But instead, I never forget, all I heard was, shut up. You've been teasing me all these years. All I heard was, shut up. And the next thing you know, I remember I'm fighting him. And then when I looked in his eyes, I knew he was serious. And I just saw him, and I just remember he took his forearm and put it under my neck. And he started he was trying to get my clothes off, and he was saying, shut up. And I remember he was spraying me with his saliva as he screamed. And he was like, shut up, you've been teasing me. And he kept trying to get my clothes off. And I just remember thinking, this is not happening. This is not happening. So I locked my legs. Even though I was a $105, I locked my legs. And I'm trying to talk him out of it. I don't remember everything I'm saying. I'm like, first I'm cussing and then I go into reasoning, what have you. And every time I would get loud, he would put his arm down on me to the point where he would cut off my breath. And he said, no, I'm tired of this. You've been teasing me. He kept that up. I don't know how long. He did manage to get my pants off me at one point, but when he did, I locked my leg again. I locked my leg so he didn't get a chance to assault me. And so he kept on until he didn't get a chance to assault me. After that, he tells me the reason that he wanted to assault me was because he was getting ready to die, that the doctor told him he had 2 months to live because he had a tumor around his heart. And he said that he wanted to have a kid before he died, and he knew I'd make a great mother. So that was his objective, was to impregnate me. That's what he told me, trying to make me feel sorry for him. And I remember when we were walking out of the bedroom, I'm trying to act like I understand because I'm scared. I'm like, yeah, you just should have talked to me. You should have just told me, or what have you. And I remember he put his hands on my shoulders. And I kept thinking to myself, like, he's going to pop my neck. Like where he was rubbing my shoulders, and then he would rub my neck while he's walking behind me. And so I would reach back and just grab his hands and hold it, trying to make him feel comforted. And we got to the living room, and he started apologizing all the more. He tries to give me a ring off his finger. I said, no. I said, see, it doesn't fit, because I'm trying to cut ties. And then finally he let me go. I got in my car. I sped home. I told my mother, and she said, do you want to call the cops? And I said, no, because I didn't trust authority. That's the nature of Jezebel. I didn't trust the authority, because I thought at that time this stuff with Mike Tyson was going viral, with the woman being allegedly assaulted by him. And Miss America, I think it was.
Was that Robin Givens or somebody else?
No, it wasn't Robin Givens. It was a lady that was Miss America. But I remember I was thinking, like, what people were saying about her. She went to the hotel with him, so they're gonna blame me because I went to his house and I went to his bedroom. So I'm going to get blamed. So people are going to eat me up. The court is going to eat me up. They're going to shame me. So my mom was like, you want to call the police? And I'm just hysterical. And I said, no. So I didn't let her call the police. I just cut this guy off. And
you still engaged at this time, too?
Yes.
So now, did you communicate that to your husband or your fiance?
I did. That was one of the catalysts that one of the motivating factors that made me break up with him. He said, that's good for you. He said, you shouldn't have went over there. That's what you get. He said, that's what you get for going over another man's house.
Wow.
He said, that's what you get for going over another man's house. And so I didn't break up with him then.
Hey,
but
he didn't break up with you?
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. But I was trying to explain to him, like, I went over there for the jewelry. I wasn't trying to do anything. But not long after that, I found out he was trying to cheat. So I broke it off with him. I ended things with him. So that became my pattern. The enemy was trying to train me. And then eventually, not long after that, God kept dealing with my heart. God kept dealing with me. I kept thinking I need to go to church and stuff like that. I got my friends. We clubbing at this point. I'm going to the club with a bunch of females, and we're having the time of our lives. We're drinking. We're having a lot. And so I never forget, I was in a car with one of the young ladies, one of my friends, and we were coming home from a club one night, and I almost had an accident. And because I couldn't see the curve up, and I started driving off the gravel, and she started screaming. And so we pulled back onto the road, and we quiet, and then she looks at me and she says, Tiffany, I think we need to start going to church. I've been feeling like we need to go to church. I feel like we need to give our life to Christ. And I feel so relieved because I felt that, but nobody was talking about it. And she was like, my auntie has a church. She's been going to this church. She's been inviting me to this church. And I said, okay. So we made a plan to go that Sunday, and I went to the church that Sunday, and that was the very first time in my whole wild life that I ever experienced peace. I didn't even know what peace felt like. When I walked into that church, I remember it was like this atmosphere that I couldn't explain it. And the people hugging on me was weird because I didn't get hugged as a child. So all these people hugging me, I'm just standing there looking like, okay, thank you, I guess. And I get home and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I went to this church, and I'm telling her all this stuff. And she says, oh, that's your uncle, the pastor. I was like, what? She said, yeah, that's your great uncle. So turns out he's on my dad's side of the family. He's a great uncle. I had heard about him growing up, but I had never seen him around. And she was like, yeah, that's your granddaddy's brother. And I was like, oh, wow. So after church service, you can usually go over and talk, like standing in line, and I went, and I'm thinking I'm going to introduce myself. He's not going to know who I am. And I stood in line, and I remember as soon as I got up, he said, niece.
Wow.
And I was like, so that was the start of the change in my life. That church saved my life. He saved my life at that church. I was there for 9 years. I was still in the world. I was still fornicating. I was still struggling with a lot of stuff. Nevertheless, every time he taught, I got rid of something. Every time he taught, when he started teaching, he said, for example, I'll never forget one Sunday, he said, if you having sex outside of marriage, you're a hoe. And I was like, ooh, because I had...
Pastor was going nuts up in there.
He said that in the church?
He said that in the church, and I'm thinking, I've been trying to avoid that tag. I didn't want that tag. Like, I didn't want that. I thought a hoe was somebody that slept with multiple men at one time. I wasn't doing that.
That was one of them. That was a Baptist church?
No.
What was it?
It was a non-denominational church.
Wow. It was going down in
there.
there.
1,000.
He was keeping it 1,000. He was like, he was saying that, and I'm thinking, because I thought a hoe was a person that slept with multiple men at one time. That's what I thought it was. Or within the same window. I wasn't doing it. If I got pregnant, I was gonna know who the daddy was. So I wasn't running around. I wasn't on a merry-go-round. I thought that was nasty. But I had dated and had sex with several guys. So I'm just like, if he's saying that's for one guy, oh gosh.
I'm a hoe.
right. Revelation.
I'm trying to tell you, that's when I realized I was a hoe. Like, I was sitting in church.
That's an important day.
It was a really important day. Now, it didn't bring me out of fornication. It was a stronghold. But I did become more careful. I did become more intentional. I became more relationship minded. I became more wife minded. Like, okay, I need to get married, because I had a sex addiction at this point.
Wow.
So I was thinking, I need to get married so that I could feed the demon. I need to feed the addiction instead of getting free. And then that's how I met my ex-husband. I ended up meeting him, and
that was your first, when you met your ex-husband, that's your first and only marriage?
No, I've been married twice.
Hold on, wait. So this is interesting, because people who might be dealing with the fact that they want to have sex, but they want to have sex legally, right? They want to have sex under covenant because they love sex so much. They love sex. And you're saying that if your motivation is I want to get married so I can legally have sex, you still are bound.
You still got the demon.
You still got the demon.
And you got to understand, demons don't like legal stuff. So when you're outside of marriage and you're doing that, your libido going to be through the roof. But when you get married, you can still have a libido through the roof, but you're going to probably not be interested in the person you're with for too long.
Right.
Because the demon doesn't want that thing legal. So that's why a lot of people end up in divorce, because outside of marriage, they were doing it. Then they got married. All of a sudden, the woman don't want to do it no more, or something's going on with the guy. All of a sudden, it just goes down. And the man is like, I don't understand. Before we got married, we like rabbits. But when we got married, it's because she had a demon. And that spirit didn't want this. It didn't want it legal. And so now once it's legalized, now it's legal sex, the demon wants something illegal, because demons are fed by sin. And so they're fed by sin. They're not fed by that. And that's why demons, if you get in a marriage, if you're not deliberate, they're going to go out of their way to end your marriage. They're going to go out of their way to destroy your marriage. And this is when they'll throw another woman at you. They'll throw another man at the woman. Or for women, a lot of times our greatest warfare is imagination. Our greatest warfare is not imagination of another person, is what my man ain't doing, what he ain't doing. And so a lot of times what ends up happening with us, because we were looking for the man to be the God, to be to fill that void that we have, we start nagging, we start arguing, we start complaining, and we're not doing it maliciously. Most of the time we're doing it because we're trying to make him into what we need, because we always marry our fantasy of a person, but we divorce their reality. We're not marrying that person because I love you and I want to be with you. We're marrying that person because we think we love him. He makes us feel a certain way, and we think that he's going to fix us. We think that he's going to make us feel better. A lot of times when you're broken, that's how you think. You think that, okay, but I just need to fix this about him. If I fix this about him, he'll fix that about me. If I fix the fact that his mother did him wrong and his mother wasn't there for him and his mother didn't love on him, if I'm there and I love on him and I give him all that, then he's going to fix my father wounds. And so it's going to be that type of thing. And so that's what makes a woman, whenever we're not getting that, then we start to, hey, can I have a talk with you? Can I talk with you? And it doesn't, in our mind, we're thinking, I'm not nagging, I'm just having a talk. And for most women will tell you, the thought is, I'm going to have a talk with him and he going to he'll understand. Like, he's not going to get mad. It doesn't end that way. Because when you say to a man, can we have a talk? Automatically, here comes that defense, right? And so we're like, can we talk? Can we talk? But the enemy loves to send us into marriages broken, because, broken people break things. So we're going to come in. If I'm broken and I get with a man, I'm going to break him all the more. Not intentionally. I won't know, because most of the times, like I tell women, sometimes we can give a man in-house rejection. So what we'll do is we'll use his spirit of rejection against him. We're not knowing that we're doing it. And then he will give us in-house rejection. So like, for example, as a woman, we may sit back and we may constantly talk about, what he's not doing. So we'll make him feel like he's not good enough. Why are you not doing this? And then a lot of times what we'll do, we'll start sharing videos of some of our favorite podcasters, right? If the man says, man, this is what you're supposed to do for your woman. Then we'll be sharing, amen, tagging the man. Praise God.
Harley Initiated might be on a couple of them.
Right. I'm trying to tell you. And what we're trying to do, we want the man to feel convicted. We want him to say, you know what, I ain't been doing right. Let me try to do that. But instead, it works in the opposite way, because he starts feeling like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for her. And then that weaponizes whatever rejection issues he has. And then he will weaponize our rejection, because typically a man, what he'll do is he'll keep leaving. I'm going to go for a ride. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to do that. Yep. And so now we start dealing with abandonment, or fear of abandonment. And so now we at the house crying, which is going to worsen it up. So you have two people that are just making each other's issues worse. We're not making it better. We think we're making it better. Okay, if he comes home and I tell him, we'll have the thought, I'm going to tell him this. I don't want to fight. I ain't trying to fight. I just want us to talk. That's it. Or what have you. That's how we think. And then we're having in our mind that it's going to end in us making up, having a great night together, and then going out for the weekend. It don't end like that. It don't end like that. So that's just how the enemy plays with it, is that now once you're broken, he wants you to get in relationships, but he doesn't want you to get married. If you get into a relationship and get married, all of the spirits of lust, all of those spirits that they will, I don't want to say abandon you, they'll just point you in another direction. They're not going to let your marriage work, because God, and God's protection, he seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. The devil's way is, come get what you want first, then go to church. Come get your man, get your children, establish this first. Well, the problem is you're under the wrong authority. That means you haven't brought God as the head to be the authority over that thing. And so when God is not the head, when he's not the authority, it won't work. It won't work. And so that's what the enemy does, is he'll lead you into those relationships broken, expecting that those people to heal you. But here's the problem. You can heal yourself out of a relationship. If I get with somebody and that person is a void filler, what happens when I get the void filled by God? What happens if I get therapy? What happens if I go get healed?
You don't need that person.
No longer need
I don't need him anymore. He becomes a liability now. So now all of a sudden, instead of him satisfying me in that area, now I'm more focused on what he's not doing.
Right.
So now I'm complaining a lot, because I don't need him to fix my daddy wounds anymore, because that was fixed. I don't need him to heal me in this area. I don't need him to take care of me financially, because I'm good.
Man, Tiff, you know what that just actually gave me is that if a lot of these broken marriages actually heal, it will probably end a lot of these marriages.
Yeah. Yeah.
These people that got into these marriages broken, which are a lot of people. Yeah. Healing actually will end your marriage.
Right. Because they're using the other person as a Band-Aid. They're using the other person as a scab. What happens whenever a wound heals, a scab falls away? So a lot of people, this is why if you're somebody who's intentional and about growing and healing, the other person will keep wounding you, because you can only relate to them when you're broken. This is why a lot of women cry narcissists, a lot of men cry narcissists. You get in a relationship with somebody who is not interested in healing. Most people are not interested in healing. You get in a relationship with a person who's adapted on that level. Remember, we date in dimensions. They've adapted. They've learned and mastered that level. They are a king on that level, or a prince on that level. You're telling them, I'm going to take you into a realm where you're a student again. I'm going to take you to another dimension. They don't want that. But if they value you, or they idolize you, what they're going to do is they're going to break you so that you never elevate. And this is when you're going to start finding out that they're having affairs. This is when you're going to start finding out that they're doing, or they may start getting relatively abusive and all the more controlling. It's because they have to break you to keep you with them. Because if you mess around and heal, the way that you see is going to change, because what you see has everything to do with what you say. If I get healing, if I've been studying my Bible and I'm applying the word and I'm getting therapy, what I think is going to change, which is going to cause what I say to change. We live in a world of words that we've created. Our worlds are created of the words that we say.
Right.
And so I'm going to say different things. So now I'm going to create a different world, but a house divided can't stand, because now the man I'm with is living in a world of words that I used to live in. So I'm going to cause him to become a widow in the house. I'm going to die to myself. He's going to lose a wife he married, all the while watching another woman he can't relate to, probably someone he doesn't feel good enough for, start to emerge in the house. And so while he's starting to lose his wife, in many cases, he's going to try to break her to bring her back. He's going to start hurting her to bring her back. He's going to start doing things and staying off the wall stuff like, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe we got to get a divorce. He's going to start breaking her to bring her back.
To keep her at that level.
To keep her at that level. Because that's how he ensures his marriage stays.
It makes, I'm taking, as you speaking, I'm just taking catalog of all these married couples I know. And, just some of the married couples that we know, all of us know married couples that you just think, they just crazy as hell. Like, how is their marriage so toxic, but they've been together 15, 20, 25 years, but it's toxic the whole time. But they're allowed to be broken together and stay in whatever world they in, and that somehow the void, that brokenness fits in some way to keep them together. And the problem is, though, everything that marriage touches, though, creates dysfunction. Yeah. Because when we think about the children that are birthed from those types of marriages, when we think about the friends that visit those households, they probably have stories where that's where they were introduced to pornography, or they probably were introduced to these other bad experiences because they touched that broken marriage.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting when you think about that, just as when you think about the healthy marriages, which, by the way, if we take catalog of the most beautiful marriages we know, many of us, that's a short list for a lot of us. When you think about those homes, that was probably the home that set the example of, I want my wife to kind of be just like this.
Yeah.
This is where I have had my first time sitting at a dinner table and actually
Right.
having dinner with a family. It was the first time I've had this happen. So that home has a completely different impact on anybody that now touches that household. Is really just allowing me to really reflect on those things. And it's just a lot of broken people in these broken relationships, just as you at that point now. Because I want to go back to your story. You're this broken woman now, motivated by sex and to not be a hoe based on what was happening in church. Found a man who somehow matched and filled your void. Right. Correct? So y'all demons was on the same page handshaking.
Yeah, they weren't on the same page handshaking, but they were somewhere in the neighborhood. I'll say that much. I end up finding somebody, he's got rejection issues, insecurity issues, all that. And then at the same time, he's intentional, good looking, and he's protective of me. That was my main thing.
Good looking is important. We got to have some sex.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Good looking is important.
We talking kids, we ain't trying to hurt them. We ain't trying to hurt them. And so, I end up meeting this guy. And I'm deep in church at this point. I'm starting to go to church. I'm heavy. Like, I really want God. I'm going to church consistently. And I end up meeting this guy, and he just seems to be the man of my dreams. He seems to be everything that I ever wanted in a person. But I learned, that the enemy, that's just, I call it his offering. That's his way of saying, hey, don't leave. Come on back. I end up meeting this guy, and I liked him. But he's, to me, a guy. That's it. He's a beautiful guy to look at. That's it. That's all. And my mentality, we'll see what happens. But this man starts pursuing me with everything in him. Like, he's pursuing me heavy, wants to be with me every single day of the week. If I was getting off work, he's like, where are you? What time I'm going to come be with you, what have you. And I recognize that, hey, this guy is not only pursuing me, he's pursuing me as a wife. He's heavy into this. He seems to be to the point of obsession, and I ignored all the red flags. I ignored all the red flags, and being a babe in Christ, I said, okay, well, we're going to see. And we ended up, he was staying with his parents going through a divorce, and I justified the relationship because I said, well, it's not like I took him. because he's already going through a divorce. Now, let me mention this. Divorce runs in my bloodline. Not only divorce, but adultery runs in my bloodline. So that was a bloodline curse. So I sat up there. The devil knew that he couldn't get me to go outright and mess with nobody's husband. He couldn't get me that, especially at that space. He couldn't get me outright. And so the devil said, let me get her this way. So I end up meeting him, and he tells me he's going through a divorce. And I'm just like, well, it's not like I took him. So I started dating him, and then I started staying the night at his parents' house where he was staying, and got to the point where I was over there so many nights. Like he didn't want me to go home, to the point he looked at me one day. He said, go get your clothes and just put them in the closet. I said, your mama gonna get me. And he said, we'll do it in the middle of the night.
Wow.
So I bought my clothes in the trunk of the car. His mom went to bed, and he bought the clothes in, hung them up in the closet. And that's how we ended up staying with his parents until his divorce was finalized. Then we moved into our house. But now I was convicted because I'm going to church at this point. I know what I'm doing is wrong. And so I started telling him, hey, this doesn't feel right. I really care, but this doesn't feel right. And I'm like, I got to be married and all this. And he says, yeah, of course. I want to marry you, all that. So after 2 years of shacking up, we got married. After 2 years of shacking up, we got married. And I was thinking, okay, we're no longer in the sin anymore. That doesn't change anything, because at the same time, my heart was still the heart of a fornicator. That meant that if the relationship dissolved, I would go back into it. I came to realize that fornication for God has nothing to do with what you do. That's just the fruit. That's the evidence. It's the heart of it. I was still in agreement with fornication. And so I ended up getting married to him. We already saw the red flags. He was already breaking stuff. We already had an abusive episode before then. But I blamed myself, which is the nature of abuse. I was the woman that said I would never let a man hit on me. Never. I grew up in a household where we fought back. I fought the guys in my household. I fought back. My brother, what have you. But I fought back. I fought my cousins. I fought and what have you. So for me, it's just like I would never let a man hit on me. Well, I ended up being in an abusive marriage, and he wouldn't hit me. He would choke me. His favorite thing was to choke me, to slam me, and all that other stuff. And it would always be around him cheating, or me being suspicious of him cheating and stuff like that. I was abusive in the fact of what I would say, because I would say something like, I know what you were out there doing. Don't think I can't go do it too. I would say stuff to kind of trigger him, and then he would do stuff to trigger me. So we had a very toxic, very volatile relationship. But I'm in church. I'm trying to be intentional and stuff like that. But this man has so much anger toward women, so much hatred toward women. And I could tell, like, whenever I was baby when he was okay with me. I was Tiffany when he was mad at me. And so I already knew. But I spent 7 years in that prison, 7 years trying to hold on, 7 years fighting with him, trying to catch him, because I could never really physically catch him. I had all the evidence I needed. But for whatever reason, I convinced myself that I needed the evidence or what have you. And I always tell people at the end, God gave me a dream. And God showed me he had got a woman pregnant in a dream. And once I had that dream, when he came home the next morning, I confronted him, I told him, and I described his mistress to him. And he knew I had never seen her. I didn't know what she looked like. I described his mistress to him. I told him what the bedroom would look like, what I saw in the dream. And that's when he hit the floor, crawled over to me like a snake. And right then and there, he just began to confess. And he was like, yeah. And I said, she's pregnant. She's pregnant. And he called her up, and, he was like, I don't want to lose my marriage, Tiffany. I don't want to lose my marriage. So he started calling up mistresses, and, right there while I'm there, he's like, hey.
Calling them all up.
Because at this point, he's trying his best to
make amends.
And so he's calling them up and what have you. But I'm hurt. I'm too hurt at that point. I really don't care. I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm in a process. I'm still in the middle of having a miscarriage, second miscarriage I had. I just had a miscarriage. And so now I'm seeing in a dream that this woman is pregnant. And so I'm still on bed rest from the miscarriage. And so I'm just in shock. He's like, I'll do anything. We can go get that house you want. We can go do this. We can go do that. But again, this was the enemy trying to train me. The enemy wanted, even though I was in church, the enemy had not given up on me. Right? The enemy had not given up on me. The enemy had his mind made up that you're going to become what I broke you to be. You're going to become that. So he ends up calling her. And first, she was like, I heard your voice note, all that. And then finally she does admit to being pregnant or what have you. And I remember, at that moment, I remember hitting the floor because I was so hurt. But right then and there, whatever spirits that were dormant in me came right back up. Everything that I had been fighting against and trying to get delivered from, it came back up. Because right then and there, it was a shift that took place because I was in so much pain. And so the enemy set it up when I tell you can't make this stuff up, how the enemy set that up. He's begging me. He's saying, hey, we can go get the house you want. We can go get this house. We can go get this. At this point, I'm in cold mode because I'm hurt. I told him, whatever. For the next few weeks, I'm not talking to him. For the next few weeks, I'm just coming home. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just numb. And one day he tells me, he said, babe, I called this company and, our credit was horrible. So he had to go to a high-risk lender. He said, I found this high-risk lender. And he said, he's really right up the street from us, right on the corner. I said, okay. He said he can get us into a house. I said, okay. That's all I could say at that time. Okay. So one day I'm at work. He calls me. He said, hey, I'm at the office with the lender. He said he needs your check stubs. Can you print off some check stubs and come up here? And I said, yeah. So I pull up in there and I'm still like in this bad mood. I walk in, I kid you not. I walk in and I look up and the lender is my ex.
Wow.
Millionaire ex.
It's a straight movie.
Oh, gosh. You can't make this stuff up. I walk up in there and I say the devil will set you up some type of way. I walk up in there and first I got my head down and I'm handing him the thing. And then I looked up at him and he looked at me and I just stared at him. And he stared at me and I don't know what to say at this moment. And then he said, hi. And I call him Frank. He said, hi, my name is Frank. Nice to meet you. I said, it's nice to meet you. And I went and sat next to this man. Sat next to the man I was married to. And he was like, babe, Frank said he can get us in the house. But I'm thinking to myself, should I tell him? So then I had this devil on my shoulder that said, you told this man everything for 5 years. You've been faithful to him for 5 years. You didn't hold a secret from him for 5 years. Why are you going to tell him now? This may be God. That was a demon telling me that. But I sat there and I decided I'm going to wait till I get out of here. I'm going to call my mom and see what she say. So once we left out of the office, he get in his car, I get in my car. Our house is literally just a few feet away. Not too long. It's just down the street. I get in the car, call my mom, and my mom said, see, that's how God worked that out. He don't tell him nothing. You've been says the same thing that their voice was saying to me. You done told this man everything or what have you. And I always liked Frank for you. He could take care of you. Frank can do this. So I was raised to think that a man's supposed to take care of me. That was my thing, right? So she was like, he could take care of you. He could do this and he could do that. So I'm like, okay, cool. Confirmation. So I don't tell him anything. I keep it to myself. I got a promotion on my job at the phone company. And I started working as a supervisor. And again, at this time, I'm really not talking to this man. I'm just really just going home and I'm kind of staying away from him. I'm still in that space of hurt. And I remember one day I get off early. He wasn't expecting me. And I come in through the door. And he had a phone. He had the house phone. And I know the mission's number at this point. So I knew her number. So he had the house phone. And I see him, and he put the phone down. And I just walk up to him. I said, hey, what you doing? And he was like, nothing. But he's staring straight up ahead, right? He can't even look over at me. He's just in guilt mode, frozen. And I walk up and I try to grab the house phone. He tried to grab it at the same time, but I get it. And I took off and ran with it. And I hit redial. And her number shows up, and I hit the hang up button. I threw it to him. He said, I was just only calling her back. He said, she called me. I was just calling her back. I said, it's fine. Now, this time, what was in me, what had been put in me as a kid, that brokenness, that thing was at the surface. It was at the surface. So I think to myself, I'm going to go down with Frank, and I'm going to show him how that feels. To have somebody give your body away, I'm going to show him how it feels. So I go into the bathroom. I take a bath. I get up. I do my makeup. I do my hair. And I go in and I know he gonna tell me no about going somewhere with me because he don't want to hear my mouth. And it should have been a red flag to him because I'm quiet. Because normally I'm arguing. So I walk up and I look at him and I said, hey, I'm going to the mall. You want to come? He said, no. I said, okay, I'll be back. I drove straight down to Frank's office. And I got out the car. I walked up into his office. He was on the phone. And he was on the phone with some guy leaning back, and he didn't see me coming at first because it's nighttime at this point. I walk up and I walk around him. He sees me. And when he sees me, I straddle him. And I just start taking his clothes off.
In the office?
In the office. And that's how.
While you married?
While I'm married, that's how I got caught up in an adulterous affair.
Wow.
You know,
That's crazy.
Yep, that was my attempt to get revenge.
Wow.
She got that lick back.
That was my attempt to get revenge. And
Frank's lucky day.
oh yeah,
I mean,
That boy was Frank Sinatra that day. Boy.
right.
So, okay. Wow. In the office.
in the office.
That's straight out. Hey, look, first of all, we gotta put some money behind this story. This is a movie for real.
It is. Listen, real quick, because we didn't even talk about the giveaway before we start again.
We gotta go ahead and talk about the giveaway.
Guys, we're giving away 15 books. Now it's gonna be a variety because we got such a published author with you. But a few of those books are actually gonna be her recent book, Jezebel and the Prophet, which is already, if I'm not mistaken, the Amazon bestseller.
Yes.
This is excellent. And guys, all you got to do is click the link in the bio. We have not done, or in the description, we have not done a giveaway in a while. So Tiffany, we really appreciate you for supporting the initiatives. But guys, we're giving away 15 of them. All you got to do, click the link in the description. Take about 20 seconds to apply.
Absolutely.
Once you apply, you qualify to win. We're going to email you within the next couple of days, get your shipping address, go ahead and get it out to you. And we always deliver. I kid you not, we always deliver.
Always. All you got to do is give us your name, your number, and your email.
That's
and
it.
Hit submit, and we will qualify you for this giveaway. And y'all need these books because, y'all hear what Tiff is breaking down here in just an hour and now 45 minutes. So just imagine the time she took when she detailing these books. So make sure y'all get one.
And this breaks down the Jezebel spirit in this book.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So y'all definitely need that.
And listen, y'all go ahead and be patient because we are going to go ahead and have the hotline tonight. We're going to bring y'all up here. We just got to make sure I go ahead and close out this testimony here because y'all see it's a testimony worth hearing. Okay, well, Tiff, okay, so you get your lick back now. At this point. And again, be patient. We're going to open up the hotlines. I want all my active Jezebels and my former Jezebels to come up, and we're going to get a chance to talk to y'all. So y'all just be patient back here. It's going to happen. But you straddle your brother here. And this church girl, Tiff, here, straddling. Fellas, never let your woman leave the house angry with some makeup on. No. Right after they catch you cheating, all right?
That was revenge at its finest right there.
That's listen, because he missed all the signs that took place. And how long did that adulterous relationship happen?
Probably a month. Because I'm saved at that point. The conviction ate me up. My love for God was the one that rescued me from that. Because I got myself entangled with it, and my only goal was to get revenge. I did not want this man. I broke up with that man years ago, and I just wanted him to feel. But then it came to me at one point, like, how is this revenge when you can't tell him? Mm-hmm. It's not like he can know, because had he known, he would have taken me out. And I'm not even just saying that. He would have taken me out. He would have separated me from my ghost. All right, so permanently, it would have been a divorce between me and my ghost. And so it dawned on me that I was really just hurting myself. Like, I was trying my best to hurt him, but I was hurting myself. And so at first, I think I had maybe 4 encounters with this guy. I don't know what it is with this number 4, but I feel like I had 4 encounters with this guy. When I would go around there, I would leave the house and I feel so guilty, and I would pray in the car, and I'm like, God, I know you're mad at me. And I remember telling God one time, I said, God, it's not even like I like this man. I don't even care for the sex. I said, it's just, he makes me feel beautiful. He makes me feel wanted. And I started telling him about the man I had at home. I said, he makes me feel like I'm ugly, like I'm unwanted. He's doing this. And I said, but I know this is wrong. I got delivered when I prayed on my way to the sin, not when I was leaving it. I got delivered when I was praying on my way. I was going over to the man's house one day, and I just started praying. I said, God, I know that what I'm doing is wrong, but I can't stop. I need your help.
You was praying on your way.
I was praying to go cheat.
That's the last time folks be praying.
I'm trying to tell you.
I be trying not to think about God when I'm about to say it. Like, God don't look. God don't look.
Right. Come here. Right.
And you over here talking to him right before it go down.
My love for him had grown so much that I was convicted that I was hurting him, and I realized that love is not absolute until you love God. Everything else is just temporary. Only what you do for God will last. And so it's not real love until you give it to God. And so it was my love that made me into my love for him that made me into a faithful woman. So I started feeling convicted. I'm on the way there one day, and I'm telling God, I said, God, I can't stop. I said, it's not even like I like the sex. It's not even like I'm interested in the man. I like the way he makes me feel. I like the way he looks at me. And I was telling God that. And then when I got there, God let me go and do what I wanted to do with the guy. The whole event was disgusting. I just remember being disgusted the whole time. Every time that man touched me, I was disgusted. Every time that man looked at me, I was disgusted. Everything he did was disgusting. Even including trying to do some exercises. I was like, ugh, what did I just do? And so I was like, yuck, what did I just do? But I got in my car and I had the weirdest response. I got in my car and I literally started saying, Lord, I started praising when I was leaving. I said, I'm free. I'll never do that again. I'm free. I'm free. I'm free. And I never saw that guy again. I cut ties with him.
Wow. I
cut ties with him. And I went all the way out being a faithful wife. I went all the way out and I learned that a faithful wife ain't a faithful wife until you're faithful to God. Because I can't be faithful to a man. And because that man hurts me, guess what? Then I can fall back into iniquity. My faithfulness belongs to God. And so from that point, I said, okay, I'm not doing that no more. But then not long after that, found out about him and the mistress again. I started going through a divorce with him. I filed for divorce. And that's how I found myself in another marriage. And then the cycle continued until I went to God one day and I said to God, God, because I'm still reading my word. And so you will heal out of those relationships. You don't realize you're going to heal out of a mentality. I went to God and I said, and I was in this marriage and I was in a second marriage and I said, God, if you get me out of here. At this time, God is using me to write books, to teach. He's literally done a work in me. I am not the same person. And I remember I said to God, because I wanted to get out that marriage so bad. I said, God, if you get me out of here, I'll never fornicate again. I said, if you get me out of here, because I recognized I wasn't loved. I said, if you get me out of here, I'll never fornicate again. It didn't feel like God was moving fast enough. So I think probably 48 hours or 24 hours later, I go back to God. I said, listen, if you get me out of here, I won't even kiss until marriage. I said, whenever the pastor says you may now kiss the bride, that'll be the first time he kissed me. And after that, God took me through a process. I had to keep getting close to him. I had to die my way out of that relationship. I couldn't just walk out. I had to die my way out. I had to get closer to God. I had to go through the process. I had to go through healing. I had to go through counseling. I had to go through deliverance. And God took me on a process until we finally broke up. And that was, he went to Africa and he bought witchcraft in our house. I found it.
Wow.
And I found it, what have you, and I threw the stuff away. I anointed my house with oil. That's the day he left. And from that point on.
And this was by the way, was this brother here, what was his belief?
He was from Cameroon. So he was Catholic, but his family believed in ancestral worship.
Got it.
So
okay.
Catholic with a little sprinkle of witchcraft on it.
I got it.
Yeah. nice little cocktail.
Right.
Yeah. Most Catholics are into that.
That's what I hear.
So
okay.
He went over there and especially ones from other countries. But he went over to his country and they performed a ritual on him. I found that out after we were going through a divorce. But he was going into that lifestyle. I found the stuff in the house, but over a week of a stench in our house. I found, I kept looking and I was praying. God woke me up one morning and while he was at work, God told me to get up and go into the room that he had been sleeping in. I had told him when he got back, I didn't recognize him. When he got into the car, I said, it just feels different. I said, could you do me a favor? Could you sleep in the other room? I said, I'm not trying to fight with you. I said, it just feels funny. And he said, okay. And so I went into that, when I got up, the Lord led me into that room. I went into his bag, this black bag, this backpack he was carrying, and I found olive oil. And I'm like, he not even saved. Why he carrying olive oil? And why is it used? So I'm just like, I'm just like, okay. I went and I threw it away, which God told me to do. I threw it away and I took my holy oil and I went through the room and I go through my whole house, anointing the house. And I'm like, I decree and declare no devil can come in here. I bind every devil. I'm just going through the house. And I went through that entire house. I sat back down and then I kept smelling the stench and I got up and I was like, where's that stench coming from? And I followed the stench and I went to the kitchen where the stench was coming from. It was stronger and stronger. And I found a black bag in a cabinet. And when I opened it up, it was, I don't know what was in it, but it looked like a brick almost. And it was wrapped with paper. It was a brown paper bag, rubber bands, but it had maggots on it.
Oh.
It had maggots on it. And, maggots are flesh eaters.
Yeah.
And so I let him know what I found. And it had peels and stuff at the bottom of the bag as well, loose peels. I let him know what I found. He told me to put it in a valet trash by the house. So when he got home, he can get it out. I talked to my best friend. She said, Tiffany, he's going to bring that back in the house. You know what that is. And I was like, yeah, I know. I knew it was something dealing with witchcraft.
So I'm dead.
So I'm dead. And so I went out to the valet trash. I took it to the main trash. And this was a Tuesday. They had just dumped the trash. And it was still early, and I threw it in the main trash. And when I anointed my front door, I anointed my house. And when he got home, he opened the valet trash. He knocked on the door. He didn't come in. I opened the door. He was like, where's the bag? And I told him I threw it away. And he freaked out. He said, you're kidding. I said, I threw it away. And he started, I'm talking about like screaming at the top of his lungs. No, you didn't. He came through the house. He told me, he said, you're going to go in the trash and get it. I said, no, I'm not. And I said, if you're getting into that lifestyle, if you're getting into witchcraft, it's over with. I said, because you know my beliefs and all that. He was like, you can't. He was on the phone with a relative of his. And he was like, talking in their language. And then he kept saying, and then he'd go to English. He said, yeah, she's stupid. I don't know why I married this woman. He told me I'm leaving. And so that's the day he packed his bags. And yeah, he packed his bags. And the Lord told me, he said, don't argue with him. Don't fight with him. Just sit down and be quiet. Don't say a word. So I was writing a book at the time. So I was sat down and I was just writing while he's packing his bags. He's talking, and I'm telling you, he's doing everything to trigger my flesh. Everything. But what I recognized was that this was deliverance. This was an answered prayer. Even though it hurt, this is an answered prayer. So I sat there and I let him pack his bags. And I never forget when I looked over at him. When he finally finished packing his bags, he said, Tiffany, I got my bag. He said, I'm leaving. And I didn't say anything. I just kept typing. And he kept saying, I'm leaving. And I could see him from my left just looking at me at the door. And finally, I just said, lock the door behind you. That's it. So he got his bags or what have you. And then after that week, we started going through the divorce proceedings. But God delivered me. And in that time, I held fast to my promise. I sat back and I got closer to God all the more. I had already gotten closer to God to the point where he was using me to write and to teach, but he was still healing and delivering me at the same time. I don't think that's a process that ever ends. But during that time, God is using me, what have you, and I had to pass the test that I once failed. So whenever I had somebody to come out, remember I told you guys I had the first guy I called myself trying to play side chick when he caught feelings.
Right.
He reached out to me around that time.
Wow, way back.
He reached out to me, and
they always come back.
Very true.
Like the living dead.
That's very true.
But he reached out to me when I was under one of the worst attacks of my life. Now I love God. I done moved from Florida to Georgia. I love God. I fear God. I'm holding fast to my promise. Like there's no fornication, right? None of that. But he reached out to me. I was in a major financial attack at that time. I was darn near broken. I didn't know what I was going to do. My mother got diagnosed with cancer again. Everything in my car started breaking out. Everything in my life was falling apart. And that was an attack from the enemy. Plus, I had got a prophetic word that my husband was a doctor. It was going to be something dealing with a doctor. So he reached out to me on Facebook, and he's wearing a doctor's coat. So I'm thinking, oh, look at the Lord. And he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I owe you an apology. He was like, I want to talk to you. He said, I'm divorced now. I said, okay. I sent him my number thinking that's going to be a weird testimony. How you going to tell people I used to play side chick to this guy? Y'all hold on, But I get on the phone with him. I'm serious about God now. I'm not playing. And the first conversation I knew, God didn't send him. First conversation, he said to me, I said, where are you in Christ? Because that's the first thing I asked me. I said, where are you in Christ? He said, I believe in God. He said, I believe in the man upstairs. I was like, oh, you're not my husband. And he was like, how you going to tell me? I said, he said, I told him, you're not my husband. And then he said, my divorce should be finalized any day now. I said, what? Remember I told you the adultery runs in my bloodline. When I met the first guy, he was going through a divorce. I justified the relationship. When I met the second guy, I was actually going through a divorce. I justified the relationship. It's the nature of Jezebel. And when I met this guy, I'm already divorced. Now he's going, and I was like, I'm not, no. So I let him get on my phone. I told him he was not my husband. He was not the one. But I talked to him for a total of 3 days. Just because I like being pursued. I like the attention and what have you. But on the third day, the Lord had been rebuking me. On the third day, the Lord said, you're now entering a soul tie. I said, oh, Lord, I repent. So I called him. I couldn't reach him. So I sent him a voice note. I was like, hey, you can't call me no more. and I cut ties with him. But that is what the Bible calls the return of the unclean spirit. And if you let it come back, it's gonna be 7 times worse. And I was like, I'm not feeling that test anymore. And so ever since then, I have been abstinent for almost 11 years now. For almost
Incredible.
11 years.
No kissing either?
No kissing.
You ain't kissed nobody in 11 years?
No kissing. I don't even touch myself. I don't do nothing. I just love on God. I spent that 11 years in the face of God, and I met a me that I never knew. I met God for real. I met a me that I never knew. I've been in the I went through the healing, and not to say, like I said, healing is a process I think that we just go through in layers.
Right.
But in that time, God tossed me into the ministry of deliverance. In that time, God tossed me into he started doing so much, and I got a chance to meet who the devil was scared of. That was the person that the enemy had attacked a long time ago to keep me, because I want everybody to hear that whenever the enemy is attacking you, he never wants you to meet who you truly are. Most people die not knowing who they are, because they die not knowing who God is. And so he tried to stop me from meeting me, because he wanted me to be a man destroyer. He wanted me to be a seductress. He wanted me to destroy marriages. He wanted me to do a lot of evil things. But I took the time out in the 10 years that I've been single. Anytime a man get on my phone, I give him 3 days. I give him 3 days. I'm asking questions. Where are you in Christ? What's your relationship look like with Christ? Who are you accountable to? I'm asking questions. As soon as they say anything sexual, anything perverted, I'm like, you got to lose my number. You got to lose my number, because I've learned that I'm a gift, but I can't give myself away. I've learned that my job is to seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And he said, I'll add all these things to you. So whenever the God says I see fit for this or I see fit for that, he'll do it. In the meantime, in between time, I have dedicated my life to serving him and being used by him.